All right, welcome back to the stream, everybody. Yeah, so today just going to be working on some more content development for Gunforge, particularly the Graveyard Arena. But yeah, so I don't really know what specifically is going to be going on in the stream. I think probably will tweak up some things about the Zombie Tycoon / Mausoleum Magnate, which I worked on yesterday as well after the stream. And maybe we'll add a new enemy type. I don't know, I have to think of that, but we'll kind of figure it out as we go on. But before I get into it, I want to remind everyone that I've got all the ways you could support my work in the description below. So I've got a couple of Udemy courses available for sale. So those are great if you want to learn how to build a complete game in the Godot engine. I've also got the link to the Gunforge Steam page where you can wishlist it and play the demo. And there are a bunch of other ways that you can follow me and support me as well in the description. So please check those out if you're interested in supporting me, and we'll get right into it. Hello, Defected, welcome back. Perfect stream time is perfect for me, allows me to attend often. Awesome. That's great. Okay, so let's get right into it. So there's one thing that I want to do with the Zombie Tycoon here, which is his working name or his project name. Of course, he's got an actual name. So if I go into it and I spawn him, so his hat, well, let's see. First of all, I should show you what I've got. So there's now $ or dollar bill explosions from those money bags that get spawned. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty fun. And then, yeah, his hat has $ like jet propulsion, or dollar bill jet propulsion. I keep saying $, dollar jet propulsion when he throws it. But I want to give him a little bit more of an animation when he teleports, because right now he just kind of appears. And so I think just adding maybe some particles, maybe... I'm not entirely sure, actually. I don't know if I should do another animation or if I should just do particles or what I should do, but I do think that that needs to be tightened up. Oh, he needs to have a death animation too. So I should probably do that. I should probably do a death animation for him. I'm actually thinking about unifying all of the boss death animations, modeling it after the lowrider spider style. But yeah, let's just do some of that. So basically just working on polishing up. We'll work on polishing up this guy first. So I think what I want to do for that dash, the Zombie Tycoon here, I think what I want to do is... let's see. Add a particle system here that can play when he teleports. Oh my goodness, and the cat is going insane now. Azir, you can't be meowing like that. You're distracting me. Let's grab the cat. There he is. There's the cat, Azir. What's up? Say hi to the stream. Okay, be quiet now. So, instead of him just appearing in the spot like the hat, he could phase as like an energy ball towards the spot and then reappearing and then blowing up. Yeah, that's a cool idea, but I think I'm going to keep what I have because it's simpler. And also, excuse me, I'm having all kinds of issues today. And also, I really like the pacing of the fight right now. So I don't want to make any changes to that at the moment. But I am going to add these blink particles here. That's going to... I'm going to try to make it look like a dirt explosion, like he's popping up out of the ground. And I may end up actually adding an animation to that as well, if it's going to help with that blink. So let's just go ahead and do this. Okay, so new particle process material. We need the particle animation here. Canvas material particle animation. How to reword, because I don't mean gameplay, I just mean effects. Oh, I see. So you mean just like time the effect so that it goes to that spot? Okay, where's the texture? Particles, oops. Particles here. Exactly, just looks cool. Yeah, I got you. So, particle process material. I think I've got everything set up. So let's do this. Let's change the color. Does this work? There we go. This is so weird to me. I don't know what's going on here. I'm very... If I change the color of an item here, it doesn't match. Do you see that? This has always been a problem with particles, and I don't know... Am I the only one having this issue? But the colors are not the same, right? So like this, 753C54, but if I do a color picker, that's a completely different color. That's not even close. I mean, it's really obvious if I choose like this red. That red is much brighter than this red. And it's a completely different hex code. So I have no clue what's going on. If I want to actually do a correct color, I have to go to a gradient texture 1D color ramp here. Or no. Initial color ramp. I have to put a gradient texture in here to do an initial color ramp. And then I can use the correct color. I don't know why that's happening. That's very, very odd. I don't know if there's something about this material here that's screwing everything up or what. Because like this project has been a long-lived project. It was started in Godot 3. It went through the Godot 4 beta stages, and then it's been through all of the major or the minor, I guess, versions of Godot. So 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. So I don't know if I've just got some like bad data in here or something that's messing up how that particle system works based on this material. I guess I could easily test that. Let me try this. If I just do a GPU particles 2D, move this over here, new particle process material, I'll put the particles.png on there, but I won't use that material. And then if I go down here to display color, nope, that doesn't work either. That's the completely wrong color. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Might have to report an issue on that. Hello, Andre. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Hello, Brekheck. Welcome back. Felipe, good to see you as well. Hello, Tupa. My gosh, I'm sorry. Like, the cat is being so distracting. Azir! Stop! He's just out in the living room just meowing at the top of his voice. I don't know if you can hear that. That always happens to me. I have to change it with modulate. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. It looks the same, and it just might be your screen. It's definitely a different color. Is there a light affecting it or modulate? I did check that the material that's applied here is unshaded, so there should be no light affecting it. Now these options do change things, these blend options, but the default options should be fine. Unless... No, yeah, none of these other ones are going to produce a good result. Because add does that, subtract does that, yeah. None of those things are going to work. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Hello Vishal, welcome back. I think it's a bug in Godot, yeah, I think that's right. I just always use white of the colors, set the initial color separately. Yeah, that's what I do. Is this a well-known issue? Like, that's what I did here. I set the initial color ramp. If multiple people are having this problem, it seems like it should be, I don't know. Anyway, good thing that there's a workaround. So I need to change this animation here. Offset. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we can actually get into spawning this. Let's do a sphere. Emission radius. Send it in the up direction, spread of 40. Initial velocity, 100, 300. Accelerations, gravity, 800. Okay, let's create a lot more particles. And then we want to make this bigger. Turn off interpolation. Turn down the lifetime. Turn up the explosiveness. Okay, and then we'll go down to the scale curves here. Use curve texture. Start it off at 0. Perfect. And then we're going to do min scale, max scale. Awesome. Angular velocity. Let's give it some randomness there. And now I want to change this initial velocity a little bit. Give it a much wider. There we go. We'll see how this looks. And then I also want to change this lifetime randomness. Maybe instead of 0.5, maybe to 0.25. Is that going to work? I think the gravity needs to be higher. Gravity needs to be higher, and so does the minimum velocity. Okay, well, I guess we'll see how that looks. Emitting one shot. So let's grab a reference to those blink particles. Private GPU particles, 2D blink particles. And then when we actually do the blink, on hat impacted blink impact particles, or I guess it's just called blink particles dot emitting equals true. Let's take a gander at how that looks. Might be awesome to make a short related to that bug and workaround. Yeah, I gotta get into making shorts because there's a lot of really cool tips that are not quite full video worthy. I've never made shorts before though, so I'd have to figure out what the meta is there. Okay, let's see what happens. Ooh, that looks pretty good actually. I think I could probably add some more colors into those particles. Yeah, I think I'll probably turn down that max velocity back down to 500. And then let's change some colors. Oh, that's nice. I could just press Control R to burst it. I did not know that. You learn something new every day. Look at that. I don't have to go and mess with the one shot and emitting. I could just press Control R and burst it. Oh, that's nice. Ah, very cool. So now I can add this color. Oh, this needs to be constant interpolation. There we go. Okay, that's not a good color. Yeah, that looks fine. I think maybe I'll change the scale. I'll make the minimum. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's take a gander. gotta stop saying gander. I've never said that in my life. I didn't know that either. Yeah, I just found that out. Hello again, Lone Undead. Welcome, welcome. Got the old Undead Berg hollowed profile picture. Love it. Fond memories. I played Dark Souls, the first Dark Souls, for the first time when I was in college. I probably played, when would that have been? That would have been like 2014, 2015, maybe sophomore year of college. And let me tell you what, many hours were dumped into that game. Yeah, that looks fine. I don't need that particle to be like super flashy. I just need it to somewhat mask the fact that he's just instantly appearing at a spot. So I think that's perfect. It's just adding that little bit of extra flair. All right, hold on a sec. Give me 1 second. The whole house just shook, so I'm gonna go see what that was about. Oh man, the joys of home ownership. Let me just vent for a little bit here. So we've had like really high winds for like just like 12 hours now. I've already got a couple shingles that have on my new roof that I just had installed in October. There's a couple of shingles now that are just flapping about that are not properly secured. So I got to get them to come back out and fix that, and then, you know, of course, the winds, I'm worried about tree branches falling down and knocking out my power or damaging the roof. And so every time the house shakes, it's either because of a gust of wind or something hit the house, or in this case, it was a snow plow going down the road, a massive snow plow. So it's just like, you know, it's one of those things. Yeah, I should have a warranty, but, you know. Hello, Arion. Welcome back. Oh, you played Dark Souls in college as well? Cat set off a bomb. That would be a much simpler situation. Zombie Tycoon Landing. Yeah, it's just I have rumble controls on my life. You know how there's like rumble in the controller. Talk about haptic feedback, am I right? Anyway, being a homeowner is never boring. Did you struggle to learn pixel art? Hello, Cyber Potato. I would say, I mean, struggle, is that the word that I would use? I don't think so. I mean, not any more than you struggle to learn any new thing. You know, there's always going to be a learning curve. There's always going to be, I think the hardest part about learning new things is that you don't know how to figure out what you don't know. A lot of learning is just figuring out, oh, these are all the gaps in my knowledge, and then I could go seek out how to fill in those gaps. And if you're learning a completely new discipline like art, and you don't know color theory, and you don't know composition, and you don't know all this stuff, and you've never even heard those terms, then it can be hard because you're like trying to do pixel art, but you're unaware of all these things that you don't know. So, but for me, like I already had an inkling of like what I needed to learn. And so it was just a matter of putting in the time and effort to actually practice it. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was a struggle any more than learning anything is a struggle. You know, it's just, yeah, it takes a few months to a year of continued regular practice to get to a point where you're comfortable with it. But that's just kind of true of anything that's somewhat difficult, right? So force feedback, yeah. Okay, so I like how that Zombie Tycoon is looking. Love your content. Your 2D Godot course kickstarted my channel. I owe you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Cyber Potato. And I'm glad to have helped. So, and I'm glad that you're here. Chilling with all of us. Working on some Mausoleum Magnate. Yeah, that looks fine, honestly. That effect is perfect. It's subtle. It's not an eyesore. It properly masks the fact that he's just blinking into place. I think that's fine. It's looking good. All right, let's handle his death now. I'm gonna commit that. Zombie Tycoon. Do I have title screen art yet? There's going to be no title screen. So I do not have title screen art. Nope, when you run the game, you're going to be plopped right into it. I don't, and the main reason there is I don't feel like making a menu. No, like when you start the game, this is what happens. So when I start the game here, you will see the loading screen. You'll have to see the loading screen because what that's doing is masking particle compilation here. So you'll see this screen here, but then as soon as the game starts, you're just dropped in here, and that's it. This is kind of like the interactive menu. And of course, you can change all your settings from here as well. But yeah. Lazy Dev Life, love it, yeah. I had a main menu at one point, and it was just like... Honestly, I don't really... As a player, I don't understand the point of like these title screen menus. Like, I booted up Bone Razor Minions the other day to record some footage of that for the latest Gunforge devlog, and... There's a title screen that just says, press any button to continue. It's like, why? I started up the game. Why do I need to press, like, I obviously want to play it. If you're gonna show me no other options at the menu, then why do I have to press a button to continue? I literally pressed a button to open the game from Steam. So put me in the game, you know? I don't know what is the fascination with these title menus. Now, if you've got like a game where you want to show like save and load options, like continue or new game, like that's fine. That's perfectly fine for a title menu. But if your only option is press any button to continue, like don't have a title menu. That doesn't make any sense. It makes literally no sense. I have no argument. Yeah, I guess for maybe setting the theme, setting the tone of the game could be a valid use of the menu. Play some music and get some art, so I could see that being useful. But I don't have any of that kind of stuff. So okay, so for the Zombie Tycoon, we got to get him to die. Lowrider Spider. Let's see. So the Lowrider Spider is kind of interesting. He's got an animation player here. Oh, that's just playing the sounds. So he's got like these death particles, I think. Yeah, death particles component. And he's also got, I thought there was another particle component I had, I thought. So that's what the particles look like. Where are the other particles? I had more. Visuals. Death particles pre-explosion. Yeah, so I've got something like this. So, yeah, I don't know what to do. So the Lowrider Spider, it has a dying state. It has a dying state. So it's got a dying state where it plays the death particles and then it plays the explosion. So I want to perhaps copy this for all the bosses. I'm just trying to think of a way to generalize it. So I need to generalize this so that I'm not rewriting the same code and the same particle systems every time. And then I have to go back and update the other bosses as well. Well, I guess just the Rat King. So I'm gonna need a state dying. Am I gonna need a state dying? Okay, let me try something. So we've got the lowrider spider here, the death particles explosion. I'm not entirely sure why that's a child of the visuals. I'm not sure if that needs to be there. Okay. All right. Well, we're just going to take oh, I should commit this. I'm going to try something. So I'm going to go to my new scene. I'm going to create boss death particles component. I haven't written a new component in a while. Actually, I'm going to call this death effect. So I'm going to copy over these pre-explosion particles and the death particles component here. Paste those. Okay, that's going to need to change, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Why do you need both hitbox and hurtbox components? That's a good question. So the hitbox is a collision type that carries along with it damage information. So this is where things like the gun stats will be attached to, so that anything that wants to listen for a hitbox can read that damage and then apply the damage. And then the hurtbox component is designed to detect hitbox components. And the hurtbox component is, it kind of automatically interfaces with the health component. So basically a hitbox component will be created by some kind of attack, and all the hurtbox components are going to be listening for hitbox components colliding with them. It will take the damage that's conveyed by those hitbox components and then apply that damage to the health component. So yeah, I mean, that's why they're separate. They just have two separate purposes. That's basically it. So if you're looking at the lowrider spider here, this hitbox component, this is for damaging the player. This is not for listening for collisions. So this gets, like, the lowrider spider has a charge attack where he drives into a wall, and during that attack, this hitbox component gets enabled and becomes dangerous to the player. So that's, if that's what you were looking at, that's what that is there for. Typically, entities won't have a hitbox component underneath them because they're creating bullets and other attacks that then go on and create hitbox components. But in the case of enemies that dash and deal damage during a dash, they need to have the hitbox component attached to them, to their transform, right? Okay, let's do this. We're gonna reset that, reset this. Okay, let's make unique recursive. We'll also make this unique recursive. Okay, so we've got the death particles component, cool. All right, so I want to figure out how to make this work in a generic way. So game.component, let's do this. Export private node 2D visuals. So we'll take the visuals node. I'm going to create a public void play death. We're going to use a tween for this. So we're going to create a tween property position, or no, visuals position I'm basically just going to copy this here. Let's see. -2 and then +2. Variant final val vector2.write times 2 double duration. What is the duration here? 0.1. Okay, tween.set loops. So we'll just set loops to 0 here. So that's going to infinitely do that. And now I want to set a lifetime. Well, do I want to set a lifetime? How long does it take for the lowrider spider to die? Pre-death timer. Pre-death timer, 1.5 seconds. So that's 0.2 seconds per loop. Okay, so I guess it's going to be doing 13 loops for 1.6 seconds. Or I could set it to 12. Right? Or no, is that right? No, I gotta do 6. 6 times 0.2 is going to be 1.2, right? Yes. Okay, so we'll set that to 6 loops. Actually, I guess I could do 8. Yeah, let's do 8. So it'll loop 8 times. It will do all these tweens, and then what it's going to do is it's going to need to do a tween callback. Callable.from. So what needs to happen in here? So first of all, these pre-death particles pre-explosion, that needs to play. So private GPU particles 2D, death particles pre-explosion. Death particles pre-explosion dot emitting is equal to true. Okay, death particles pre-explosion dot emitting. Well, I guess we don't need to do that. We got to grab this death particles component now. We're going to call death particles component dot play in here. And then I probably should just emit a signal out of here. Signal public delegate void effect finished event handler. And then we'll do this. Emit signal, signal name, dot effect finished. So that's basically what I need to do here. Similar boss death animations, yeah, that's the goal. Why C# instead of GDScript? Mostly just for the structure that C# gives me and all the built-in goodies like the data structures and whatnot. I just like the organization that I can have with it and the type safety and all that stuff. Old school Nintendo explosions are always nice, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get away with. I think it'll look good though. And since I'm unifying this, I should be able to make this more impressive. And then it will just automatically be reflected across all the bosses instead of having, you know, 6 unique bosses, each of which I need to repeat basically these same steps. Okay, so I'm going to... I need to replace the Lowrider Spider's death stuff, but I'm going to actually test it out with the Zombie Tycoon first. So what I'm going to do is I do need to still add a death state. So state machine.add states, state death, enter state death. Private void, enter state death. Now what I could do is I could also connect to the health component here. That'll probably make things easier. Because the Lowrider Spider is connecting to the health component. Yeah, health depleted here. So health component dot health depleted. Let's actually do this. Health component dot connect. Health component dot signal name dot health depleted. Callable dot from. Private void on health depleted. So on health depleted, we're going to call play death. Death. This probably can be private now. We're going to play those death particles, and then we're also going to do health component dot emit died. Okay. So back into the Zombie Tycoon, what I can do is I can get a reference to that node private boss death effect component. Okay. So on health depleted. Okay. So yeah. So enter state death. Actually, I need to connect to this now. Boss death effect component dot, what did I call it? Effect finished event handler. On health depleted, so I need to do this. Signal, public, delegate void, effect started, event handler. Emit signal, signal name, dot effect started. Okay, effect started plus equals on boss death started. Boss death effect component dot effect finish plus equals on boss death finished. Private void on boss death started. State machine dot change state state death. Private void on boss death finished. State machine change state, or no, not that. I just want to queue free this, I think. Yeah, I think I just want to queue free. So state death velocity component dot velocity is equal to no, decelerate. Enter state death. I want to do animation player dot play anim reset. Okay, that should be basically it. I'm gonna build this and see if I can hook that all up. Okay, so instance child scene, boss death effect component. We'll just put this down here. We'll raise it up a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to take this health component, assign it there. Visuals. Assign that. Okay, and then what else do I want to do here? Hit flash group component. Hello, Suhid. Welcome back to the stream. Can you give a hint to your next game idea? Sure. The next game idea is a... so I made up this term. I'm not saying that I'm a genius for making up this term. I actually think this term is rather lackluster. But this genre name, like a condensed roguelite, and a condensed roguelite is things like Vampire Survivors, Halls of Torment, Brotato, Gunforged, where you're basically just fighting, and then you get like an upgrade. And then you fight, and then you get an upgrade, and you fight, and just so on and so forth, and that's the entire game, right? Because what it does is it cuts out a lot of the other elements of roguelike games, like exploration or running through the level or whatever. It's just like, here's your screen, here's a bunch of enemies, kill them all, get your upgrades, done. So my next game is going to be another condensed roguelike, set in a high fantasy RPG universe, so elves, dwarves, with classes, so rangers, warriors, necromancers, all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be a multiplayer online co-op game where you basically do that. You fight a bunch of monsters, you level up, you put points into your skill tree, you share equipment with your buddies, you trade back and forth based on the loot that you get during the level, and you repeat ad nauseum for fun. So it's basically like taking an action RPG and condensing it down, where you just fight a wave of enemies or something. I don't know the exact formula, but you fight a wave of enemies, then you get a level up, which means that you get a skill point, and then you get any amount of equipment drops that you can put onto your paper doll, like an RPG, to change your stats. And then, yeah, I think that'll be really fun. So the big draw of that is it'll be single player, but it will also be online co-op multiplayer. So you can hop in with your friends and play. That's the game. Yeah, I did give a hint. I'm still thinking about like what the exact gameplay is going to be. I need to obviously do like a vertical slice of it, and I think the vertical slice is going to include probably just having a class implemented with some class abilities, and then the online multiplayer component of it, and the combat. And then from there, I'll build the skill tree and the items and stuff. But what I want to do is I want to borrow ideas from games like Path of Exile, where, you know, you're looting, you get a rare item that's really good for your stats, and you're like, oh, I'm going to put that on. And then you're looting, and then all of a sudden you get a legendary item that has like a really cool power on it, you know? Yeah, I'd be interested to hear if anyone else has cool game ideas. Giga Chad Simulator. Yeah, that's a good name for the genre. Are you going to start right after the release of Gunforged? Probably. Yeah, I have to figure that out still. Didn't I show some work in progress assets too? I did. Should I show some work in progress assets again? So this is just like a quick mock-up. So it's going to be loosely based off of my game Globins, which you can play at my itch.io page, but these are the Globins characters here. And what I was doing is like, well, I like the simplified art style. So imagine this here. And again, this is just all work in progress. This is just me doodling around, so don't take this too seriously. But so this is like your arena, right? It's a single screen. There's no exploration. It's just you're plopped onto this arena and you fight, you know, goblins, orcs, slimes, and this character here would be like a player character, like a dwarf warrior or something. And the idea is that, you know, the helmet would be a piece of equipment that you can actually change out. And the axe also would be, you know, whatever weapon you want to wield, whether it's a sword or whatever, and maybe there will be a shield or something. And you would have a paper doll, which would have, you know, like a slot for your helmet and for your chest piece and for your leggings and your gloves and like an amulet or whatever. And the idea is that it's like a condensed RPG experience. Like it's a condensed, you level up and you get gear real quick and like you're always upgrading and stuff like that. So anyway, that's the idea. My Discord is full of game ideas, some iterations and some just ideas. Board games as well. Yeah, get a Discord. Yeah, I just don't have time to manage a Discord. I don't have the time, but maybe after Gunforge releases. So yeah, I'm very excited about that next game though, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, did I do everything correctly? Let's find out. I don't think that a final explosion for the death is going to work. Oh, didn't work at all. Oh, this needs to... Right. This is wrong. I don't think there's a way to loop a section, so what I need to do is do tween.finished plus equals this. I think I just need to do that instead of a callback. I have a few also, I just need to buckle down and start them. Yeah, that's the hardest part. I think I'm going to take a lot more disciplined of an approach to developing the next game. Like, I really want to just, like, build out a vertical slice, like, get one system working and say, okay, does that feel good? Okay, that feels great. So then add the next system, play it. Does that feel good? No, that actually doesn't feel good. Okay, so we're going to scrap that system or rework that system. I want to take a very disciplined approach to, like, building it block by block. I think Gunforged was just kind of, like, a little bit sprawling in terms of its development. Which was fine because I was mostly working on it as a hobby, but now that I need to make a game that can actually potentially make me money so I can continue to live, I need to take a much more disciplined and ruthless approach to the game development and just like basically be constantly asking the question like, does this improve the game at all or not? Okay, so that looks great. The thing that I need to do is I need to... This death particles component needs to play this explosion. So by default, it uses the owner. And so what this death particles component does is it basically says, when I call play, it removes all the particles from this node and it puts it in a different part of the tree. And the reason why it does that is because then I can free the zombie tycoon, and because the death particles is no longer a descendant of the zombie tycoon, I can free the zombie tycoon and then allow the death particles to continue to play. Because if I leave the death particles in the tree as a descendant of the zombie tycoon, then it will be freed along with everything else and I won't see the particles, and that's exactly what's happening right now. So the death particles component was designed to get around that. However, now that the death particles has a different owner, that is the boss death effect component, that doesn't change anything because it's just saying owner, get parent, add child. So this is just ultimately adding this as a child to the zombie tycoon when I call play. So I need to do like an owner override, I think, or something like that. So let's do this. Private node 2D owner override public void set owner override node 2D node. I guess I don't really need it to be, it can just be a node. No, we'll force it to be a node 2D. Okay, that should fix it. So now if I go to the boss death effect, what I can do in the ready method here, I've got the death particles component. I'll just say death particles component dot set owner override, and then I'll just do owner as node 2D here. Okay, so now that should play the effect. My programmer and I are working on a game very similar to this, but different. That's how I found the stream for researching for my game. Oh, interesting. I'm the artist and original programmer. Got someone to do that for me now. Nice. I don't have much experience working with a team. Okay, that's looking good. I might make that explosion even bigger, and I might change those explosion particles. Yeah, I'm going to change those explosion particles, but I think that's working fine. So, let's see. Well, let me just do this first. Add boss death effect component. So now I can use that. Oh, I spelled death wrong, whatever. It's just a commit message. So this boss death effect component, this here, I want to change this because I don't like the way it looks. Instead of doing that, I'm going to apply an animation to it. Lifetime randomness time. The amount, or I'm looking for the spawn. Yeah, spawn. Let's bump that up. That's rookie numbers. I don't know if I should be adding any sort of some angular speed here either. Angular velocity. Let's just set this to 0. And I think that this scale curve ramps up too slowly and ramps out too slowly. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. I'm curious to see. Ooh, I should probably turn that off, huh? See ya. Okay. I'm currently enrolled at a tech school for computer programming with the hopes of being in game dev. I'm stuck in like an imposter syndrome, not confident in my coding skills. Yeah, I think that's a very common thing. I would say that you shouldn't be confident. Like, this is going to sound like bad advice, but just bear with me. If you're new to programming, you shouldn't be confident in your coding skills because you're new and you have a lot of learning to do. And I think that that's the proper frame to approach the start of your career, is that you aren't going to do everything correctly. As a matter of fact, you may do most things incorrectly at first, but that's kind of a necessary requirement to learning. And this is something that was when I was a junior developer working in a professional workforce right out of college. That was something like, that was a message that was kind of implicitly giving to me, is like by the senior devs who were kind of mentoring me, is like, go out and try it. Go out into the system, develop the feature in the way that you would, and then bring it to us in the form of code review, right? The senior devs, and we're going to look at it, and we're probably going to tell you, hey, that's not the best way to do it, or hey, you should really think about changing this part to this part because it's better, or I don't like the way that you wrote this specific part, here's the way I would have done it, and here's why. So I think that part of imposter syndrome is like, if you're a new dev, you should be feeling that. Not that you're a fraud and that you're fake and you can't do it, but that you're inadequate because you are. Because you need to learn, because you don't have 10 years of programming experience. The only way to get 10 years of programming experience is to do programming for 10 years. So I'm kind of like, you know, I don't know if that advice is helpful at all, but I would say that what you're feeling is not unnatural, it's not unusual, it's not uncommon, and that maybe a reframe is in order where you say, yeah, I should be feeling this. I should be feeling like I'm not doing things good enough, because you're not, because you still have a lot of learning to do. So and then of course you have to take it easy on yourself too. You have to give yourself the space and the permission to make mistakes and to learn and to grow. That's all very important. But that's kind of my advice, is like, you know, you should be feeling a little bit of uncertainty because things are uncertain. So yeah, I don't know if that helps at all. It's kind of, I think it's kind of like not the typical advice you get in terms of imposter syndrome, but yeah. Z skew on that thing. For game dev, I've really only done tutorials. I did enjoy my app dev class using React and emulator to see it work. Yeah, React is fun. I love React. The thing about game dev though is, like, in terms of programming, it's one of the more forgiving disciplines when it comes to programming, because at the end of the day, what you're really caring about is, like, is the end result game fun for the player? It doesn't matter what the underlying code looks like or how it functions, as long as it's not like causing player issues, right? What was it like? I think we talked about this the other day. The Celeste like player code is like a 5,000 line script or something with all of the different combinations and states all just like mashed together in one. It's like, as a software engineer, as a senior software engineer, I look at that and go, oh my gosh, this is hideous. Like, I would never in a million years approve this code to go to production. And, you know, Celeste sells whatever millions of copies, right? It's like, with game programming, it's mostly just a function of, like, does the game work as intended from the player's perspective? And you can get away with a lot. You can get away with a lot of bad practices. And so I've been a developer for many years, and sometimes I think the same. Yeah. Ugly functional code is better than beautiful non-functioning code. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But game development is a new thing for me, and for me the hardest part is the art. Yeah, the art is hard. Okay, what am I doing? Oh yeah, I want to test this. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. I might change the duration on that. Maybe change, yeah, maybe I'll do that. Where's the animation? Turn the animation speed down. Maybe I should make that all uniform speed. I think that'll be fine. Let's try that out. People play games because of the art. Hot take. Is that so? Because I wouldn't say that the old classic games like Mario look good at all. Maybe in the modern era that's a little bit more applicable. I don't know. I'm just stirring the pot. Yeah, I mean, if I'm a player and I see a game that doesn't look good, I'm probably not going to play it. Even if it's like the best game ever, if it just looks like a mess, I'm probably like, I never played Cruelty Squad because it just looks ugly. And I know that that's kind of the point, and that's kind of like the theme or the shtick of Cruelty Squad, but I can't like, I just can't look at that for any appreciable amount of time. Okay, I'm just tweaking these particles just to try to get this to look better. Classic Dwarf Fortress. Oh, yeah, yeah. Good art usually acts as the first hook for me, at least. Yep. I think that looks fine. There's a little bit of a weirdness here. I need to add sound effects to this as well, but I think this explosion, I think I'm just going to add more particles to this explosion. Particles, yes. How many particles? Yes. I think maybe the lifetime randomness is set to 1 for some reason. Oh, that was making it look really janky. Okay, 0.5 is much better. I think I want to add some initial velocity to this as well. Or I guess more initial velocity. I can't use it. Maybe if I use a sphere surface. Problem with using a sphere collision emission shape is that you can't, at least as far as I'm aware, you can't make the particles all uniformly emit from the center. What happens if I turn the spread down? And the direction is 0, 0. Okay. Velocity pivot. A pivot point used to calculate red. Oh, relative. Okay. Is there a way to make all the particles go away from the center instead of crisscrossing? I don't like that either. Maybe, yeah, that's probably fine. I just want it to go outward more. I think what's happening is that there's a lot of crisscrossing of the particles happening in the center here. And so I'm not getting the motion that I want, which is outward. Some particles are moving out and some particles are moving in, and it's just kind of like creating a mess. So I wonder if I can fix that. I actually don't know how to do that though. So we've got the emission shape scale, emission shape offset. Initial velocity flatness. I have no clue what flatness is either. I've never seen that make any difference in any particle system ever. It's probably for 3D, if I had to guess. Accelerations, display, turbulence, collision, directional velocity. I don't know what this does either. Yeah, I have no clue what that does. Orbit velocity, radial velocity, velocity limit. Damping as friction, that's not going to help. Align Y. Rotate Y. Is there another, maybe I can use a ring instead? Ooh, maybe if I use a ring. Ring radius. That's not working either. Ring, emission ring height, 48. Nope, that doesn't work. Emission ring inner radius. That doesn't work either. box, sphere, surface, sphere. I mean, I guess... I mean, is point going to be my best bet? Can I change the scale here? No, that doesn't do anything. Very interesting. Is there a setting that I'm missing? Maybe somebody in the chat has an answer. Let's see. Screen shake and SFX will make a difference. Ooh, yeah, I should do screen shake for sure. I'll do screen shake. Actually, let me put that in there right now. Unfortunately, a screen shake is really, really hard for me to do. So let's see. Oh, it's going to be so difficult. Game camera dot shake 1. Okay, it took a huge amount of effort, but camera shake is now into the death component, so I think that's going to look great. Thank you for the suggestion. For me, gameplay is the most important thing, but I agree that art can attract more players. Yeah. Do you guys know of any games like Valheim and Enshrouded? But not those two. Stardew Valley is too chill. I also don't want to fight stuff all the time. I think Grounded was a game that I was looking at. It's kind of like the open world survival craft multiplayer, which looks really cool. I liked Enshrouded and Valheim a lot. What else is there? There was another one that I was playing relatively recently. Yeah, I don't remember, but maybe Grounded would be right up your alley. I feel like bad gameplay is a lot worse than bad art. Yes. Thomas Was Alone with Shapes and it was a great game. Yeah, I think the argument there with Thomas Was Alone is that it depends on what you mean by bad art, right? Because I think what people mean when they say bad art is that there's a thematic inconsistency or there's something like really offensive to your sensibilities. And with Thomas Was Alone, it's like, yes, they're simple shapes, but the color theory is good. There's a lot of post-processing effects. It's all thematically coherent. And so even though the shapes are very primitive, it still has a unified visual style that I guess you could say is good. And so it kind of depends on what you mean by bad art. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say Thomas Is Alone is bad art. I would say it's simple art. Gameplay is king. It's just hard to see a game that doesn't look good and assume the gameplay is much better than the visuals. Yeah, people probably guess the quality. Yeah, I mean, you hear that, like, don't judge a book by its cover. It's like everyone judges a book by its cover. Literally everyone. It's just a natural response. Like, if I see a game screenshot that looks ugly, guess what? I'm not going to be like, well, maybe my initial impression of this game is wrong. I'm just going to say, next in queue. Force them out faster. Well, we'll see. I just need to get the uniformity down, if I can figure it out. If people see a game with bad art, they're probably not going to try it, just in case the gameplay is amazing. Yeah. Is the aim just to have the particles all move out from the center? Yes. Welcome back to the... I think you've been here before, but welcome to the stream if not. There are probably a crazy amount of brilliant games out there that go unheard of because it doesn't make a good visual first impression. Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. I'm sure that's the case. A lot of great developers that aren't great artists, yeah. My kids play Grounded. I love it because it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids video game. Nice, yeah. Yeah, that game looks fun. I just never got it for some reason. I don't know why. I guess I was busy with other stuff. Hello. Left you a first impressions Steam review under the name Ply. Let me know if you want to discuss any of the points. Was that yesterday? Or did you just do that like today? Because I did see a comment yesterday. I think you can get away with low skill art, but you can't get away with low skill art direction. That's a good, yeah, that's a good distinction. Yeah, because I think, I don't know, is it fair to say like Undertale is kind of, I don't know, is Undertale... See, the thing about Undertale is I can't tell if it's low skill art that's done with a good, strong art direction, or if Undertale is done by a great artist who intentionally made the game look a little bit janky. I don't know what the deal is there. Maybe somebody can enlighten us, but that would be a good example that comes to my mind of like, maybe low skill art, but good art direction in terms of like the consistency and coherence. Yesterday, yes. Okay, yeah, I did see your comment, and I took a note of the feedback. I don't remember what your exact feedback was, but I think I remember it being very good and something that I'm going to action. Remind me what some of your feedback was here, so I can tell you if I'm thinking about that. Because I'm getting feedback from all kinds of places. I'm getting it from the Steam forums. There's all kinds of comments in my most recent video with feedback, so I have a hard time like remembering which feedback comes from which person. I can't start and finish a game because I always find the art very bad. Yeah. I don't know any artist to embark on an adventure with me. As time flies, I keep dreaming about it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the tricky thing, you know? I'm pretty sure Toby Fox made Undertale intentionally look the way it does. Okay. I think the Undertale artist was held back. Apparently he scrapped a Papyrus sprite because it didn't look... Interesting. Okay, all right. Usually art direction is what makes the artist actually good, often paying attention to the composition, making sure the viewer's looking at the right places. Played Owlboy, and the game has probably the most beautiful pixel art. Oh, yeah, yeah. The gameplay was lackluster. Yeah, you get this weird, like, programmers, non-artists who are good game designers making good games, but the art is bad. And then you have, like, fantastic artists making games where the gameplay is lackluster. It's like, those people just need to get together and, like... then their game is going to be unstoppable. But yeah, I see that all the time. Like, there's a lot of games that have beautiful art, and it's just like, I don't know, I just don't want to play it. My goal is to make a full RPG like Undertale. That would be awesome. I always thought it would be fun to make a game like that as well. Just like with, I've never done a story game. Art is an entire career, so it takes time to improve, like be a developer. Yep, it takes time. Like, yeah, you have to be on the time span of years at the minimum dedication to this kind of stuff. Outside of a few prodigies who are like, hey, I just picked up game dev a year ago and my game sold 100,000 copies. Like, those are the prodigies. But I think for most people, it's like, if you're going to be a solo developer especially, like, you have to be thinking on the scale of years. Like, I'm going to start this and it's going to take me years to get to the place where I want to be. That's just how it is. All right, so back to figuring out how to make these particles come from the center. I could use the point here, because that's producing more of the effect that I want, but then it's not going to provide enough coverage. That's the problem. I don't know the spread. So if I turn the spread all the way down... yeah, I just want them to go outward from the center. I just want them to go outward from the center here. I don't know if there's a way to do that, though. Oh, radial velocity? Oh, is that not going to work? Is that doing something different than I think? The problem there is that the particles that go down keep accelerating downward instead of letting the gravity take over. I think I have a gravity, right? Yeah. Radial excel. Yeah, so radial velocity is not what I'm looking for. Tangential acceleration. Nope. There's got to be a way to do this. Maybe there's not a way to do this. Directed points. I don't understand this. Yeah, directed points. There's a bunch of textures in here. Sphere surface. I don't really know what that does either. Let's try this. Let's see. I don't think there's a way to do this. So I'm probably just going to have to live with it. Probably just going to have to live with it, but let's see. Maybe whatever changes I've made have made it a little bit more acceptable. Bumping gun stats at the cost of magazine size seems to be like a winning strat, since magazine size only changes rhythm. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I gotta figure out how to make the guns more interesting generally. It's very close. I think with just a couple of like minor tweaks to the system, some minor tweaks to the stats, some changes. I don't know. So I've gotten a lot of feedback lately about how the gun parts don't feel differentiated enough and they don't feel impactful enough, like the choices there. And I entirely agree. So I'm trying to think of ways to make the gun parts feel a little bit more impactful. What I'm kind of toying around with is the idea of having innate runes. And so innate runes are runes that always come with a gun part. So each gun part in the game will always have an innate rune, and that rune can only be found on a gun part. So, like if you had the shock rune can only be found on lightning type guns. And there could be multiple lightning type guns, so you have more opportunities to get it. There could also even be hybrid guns, right? There could be a gun that's like a fire and poison and shock all in one, and each of that gun's parts have different runes. But with the innate rune system, the idea would be that maybe I would remove the ability of shock to appear in the generalized loot pool for runes. So like you can't get shock anywhere but from a shotgun part. I'm still toying around with the idea. That idea has some downsides as well, but I think that at least moves in the right direction of making gun choices more impactful. Because then, you know, if you really need shock for your build, you're going to want to always take some kind of shock gun part. Otherwise, I don't really know how to differentiate them. The other thing that I was thinking is maybe I could just give some extra stats to various gun parts. So in the example of the shock gun, for instance, instead of having, so forget the innate rune system for a little bit, I could just have like an extra line item on the shock gun part that's like, your shock status effect does 5% more damage or something like that. You know, just like an extra little, ooh, I could take this one fits in my build a little bit more. Because otherwise, right now, the gun parts are mostly just stat containers, and you just pick the stat container that has the best stats, and that's it. So I'm doing some noodling around with that, but Are you using a sphere? I am using a sphere for the emission, yeah. Is that some have near zero velocity, so are staying in place? No, it's not that. It's that they're crisscrossing. So they're being spawned along a sphere, and then some particles go, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Some particles go down this way and some particles go up that way. And I want them all to uniformly move out from the center, but I don't think that's possible. Do you have any advice on how to structure a game's code base? I always feel like features depend on a few other features every time. I want to make modular reusable code. Yeah, I mean, the way that I approach modular reusable code is I use the composition sort of design pattern. And then, because not everything needs to be modular and reusable, right? Like if you're writing a script for an entity, that entity's script doesn't need to be reusable. Now, there may be components within that entity that should be reusable, like pathfinding, in which case I abstract that into a component that everything else can use. So that's kind of how I approach it. You basically just want to build the smallest pieces of generalized functionality that are reasonable, and then that's a good way of approaching the design or the organization. Curve it? I don't know. I don't think that's going to work either. But I'm not sure. I'm spending too much time in that particle, so I'll probably just say if it looks good enough, it'll be good enough. But we'll see. I keep trying to read up on software architecture and game architecture, but I think something just isn't clicking. Yeah, I think mostly it'll just come with experience too. Like, I didn't really get a feel for how to build games in a nice, like, solid way for a while. I just had to keep building games and find out what works and what doesn't. There are certainly game design patterns that you should study up on and be aware of, but I think it kind of like organizing your code needs to be a bottom-up process. Like, as you're building it, you need to be able to identify situations where you're like, okay, I'm going to generalize or abstract this pattern out into something else that's going to ease my development process, rather than approaching it from the top down and saying, okay, I have all of these design patterns. How do I apply them in a top-down fashion to the game? I think you just want to build it organically. Let the game, like, as you're building it, like, let the code reveal to you the places that need to be enhanced and improved and architected better, and then do that, and then do that refactor and build the system in a better way. But if you're trying to approach it from top down, like, I'm going to implement this pattern and this pattern and this pattern, that's not necessarily super helpful. So it's got to be a little bit organic, I think. Yeah, Discords are a great place to find people, I've heard. Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's basically what I just said. Yeah, listen to this guy here. I do have a video about composition, yes. I can't give advice here because all my ideas have to go to my game. That's funny. It's basically a gun part effect, no need to use the concept of a rune. Right, yeah. I just think that in terms of like displaying it in the UI, well, the reason I call it an innate rune is because I would remove it from the generalized rune pool. So it's like a rune that comes with the gun but can't be removed, but it could also just be a gun effect. And I guess there's no reason for me to remove the shock from the rune pool either. Maybe just as simple as what you're saying. Yeah, just say like the shock weapon adds shock stacks, and don't call it a rune at all. Just say, hey, this is what it does. And leave the generalized rune loot pool alone. Maybe I'll start there. Maybe I'll start with that. Just give like some kind of effect to each gun part and see if that makes gun part choices a little bit more interesting. Too bad I can't post art here. Yeah, if I had a Discord, you'd be able to post it there, but I don't. I'm sorry. I mean, if you have like a Twitter or /X account or anything, you're welcome to share the name if you post your art there. Hello, Christopher. Welcome. React Native. Ooh, I've never used React Native, but mobile development can be really hard. Could have slots like Diablo. Yeah. How do you choose if you make a health component, for example, and adding it onto your entity versus having your enemy have a health component instance in pure C#? How do you choose if you make a health component and adding it onto your entity? Oh, I think the answer to that question is just, do I have other entities that are going to need health? And the answer is yes. So I make it as reusable as possible. In terms of like Godot specifically, the reason to make it a node or like its own scene is so that it has access to signals, so it can emit signals and handle signals. That's a big part of the composition design pattern because that creates a decoupled way of responding to changes in components. So like the health can emit a signal whenever the health value changes. It just blasts out that signal into the ether for anyone that's listening to it. There could be no one listening to it and there could be 1,000 people listening to it. But the fact is that it's agnostic, right? I'm keeping track of the health. That's literally my entire purpose. It's like the robot from Rick and Morty, right? What is my purpose? You pass the butter. Like that is a butter component, right? That's a butter robot component. Its only purpose in life is to pass the butter. So with the health component, its only purpose in life is to track the health and emit broadcasts into the void about the health changing. It's up to everything else in the game to choose to respond to that or not. And that creates a nice decoupled way of organizing the project because the health component is agnostic as to whatever else is going on in the game at any given moment. Do gun parts have negative side effects? They do not, but that is something that I'm considering as well. I mean, the negative side effect would mostly be like a gun part has something that you want, like increased fire rate, but then maybe its damage goes down or its rune slots go down. So it can kind of have like an organic negative in terms of like just having worse stats, but it's still not enough to make choices interesting. Are you going to go full Borderlands with weapon building? I am not aware of how the Borderlands weapon building works, but my hunch is to say probably not. Your health component should have some props like max health and some events like died. Yep, exactly. With this stuff, you can use it everywhere. Yep. This is my day job, and there's just some unhandled exceptionist throwing at a lower level. That isn't my code. Oof. Nightmares. Nightmares. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Ooh, the camera shake. Good call on the camera shake. I think that looks fine. I mean, maybe it is too many particles. I'll probably turn it down. Let's turn the particles down a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. It's maybe a little bit big, but I think that's fine for a boss. Ouch. Okay. So the next task is going to be to translate that over to Lowrider Spider. But first... Oh, did I accidentally commit this change? I think it's supposed to be 3250 health for here. Okay, so that's looking good. So I'm going to add this back. Actually, I'm going to open this up. File history. $32.50, yeah. Okay. Boss. Okay. I'm having a hard time balancing which code should be game specific and which shouldn't. Well, I wouldn't recommend making code for your game that's meant to be used in other projects. Again, it comes down to like having a very clear need. I would just build your components in a game-specific way. And then if there's an opportunity to reuse those things in a future project, you can handle that problem when you get there. but all of your components should be game specific. All of the components, none of the components that I'm building in Gunforged are going to be reusable in entirety for my next game. I will probably copy and paste a bunch of code and change a bunch of stuff, but it's not like I'm going to be able to just take the entire node and its script, put it in my next project, and it's just going to work. That's not going to happen. So I'm building a set of components for Gunforged specifically, not so that I can reuse them in an unspecified, undefined number of future projects. Camera shake is cool. Yeah. Yes, so many suggestions to be co-designer, yeah. In Borderlands, you have a base weapon class like shotgun and a vendor. When a gun is generated, it can only use components that matches the base type and vendor. Oh, I see. Yes, yeah, because there's like, I remember there's like a vendor where like the weapon explodes or something when you reload it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to strike a balance between, like, the whole point of creating modular components for your game is to speed up the development of your game. And if they're not serving that purpose, then you should probably reevaluate. You're either getting too granular or not granular enough, or you're modularizing something that doesn't need to be modularized. Okay, so the next step is to get the lowrider spider to use this boss death effective component. So I'm gonna put this here, get rid of this death particles component. Death particles pre-explosion, we'll get rid of that. Move that up. We're gonna assign the health component. We're gonna assign the visuals. Okay. And then death particles pre-explosion, get rid of that. Get rid of that. Death animation player. We're probably going to keep that. Pre-death timer. I'll probably need to refactor that as well. We're going to get rid of that pre-death timer. Okay. Boss death effect component dot. We don't need this health depleted anymore. Do I need this health component now? I don't think I need that. Oops. Get rid of this. Boss death effect component dot effect started plus equals on death effect started. Enter state dying, we're going to play anim reset. We're going to get rid of shake. Death animation player animated. Yep, that's fine. Acceleration coefficient multiplier. Decelerate. Persistent sound component dot play. Right. Okay, move this down there. I don't need any of this. Don't need this. Don't need that. Okay. Boss death effect component dot effect finished plus equals on death effect finished. All right, I think that's basically all I need to do. Yeah, I think that's all I need to do. So let's see if the lowrider spider now is working. All right, zombie tycoon. Oops, wrong one. Wrong boss. Ah. Okay, well, let's just get this guy in place. Ooh, that looks like it works great. All right, we're gonna fight this guy. Oop, I'm already at a disadvantage here. Let's see if I can beat him on 1 health. Nope, the answer is no. But I am actually gonna give it a try and see if I can beat him on 1 health. I work in the industry and doing well financially, but I'm in a tiny studio where we've never had a senior lead with a vision teaching. Want to improve our project structure? I got you. Yeah. Okay. That kind of changes things a little bit too. Unfortunately, I can't really give you good advice on how to handle this stuff in a more professional environment. I'm speaking mostly just from a perspective of like a hobbyist / solo indie developer, because there are different considerations when you're working in a studio in a professional capacity. I see over normalization of SQL all the time. A table that has 3 columns, one being an ID and only 1 row because someone wanted to keep things as atomic as possible. Oh yeah. That's yep. You get really dogmatic with your database structure, and then it's just you got to join across 4 tables just to get some kind of data you need. I think that's probably what led to the rise of like the NoSQL databases. Makes changes easier to implement and less breaking. Honestly, feel ashamed. Yeah, no, that's understandable. Yep, and then giant tables where people dump like it's a dumping ground. My favorite is like the you get tables and it's got like an ID column, but then like the data is just a blob of JSON. And it's like, well, if you're just gonna put like JSON data in the database, you might as well use NoSQL instead of, like, kind of defeats the purpose of a SQL database to be just dumping a bunch of JSON in it. Create some more Udemy courses. I have that on my to-do list, but who knows when I'll get to it. But I will be doing that at some point. So, but welcome to the stream, Akash. I love the Lowrider Spider. Thank you. I love him too. He's great. Anybody in chat familiar with side-scroller beat 'em up? With making a side-scroller beat 'em up? I am not, unfortunately, but maybe somebody else is. Are interfaces supported in GDScript? No. There's no interface. There's no really concept of like inheritance. I mean, I guess that's not true. There is inheritance in GDScript, but it's really weird because there's no method overriding. And there's no method overriding. There's no interfaces. There's no like abstract classes. So the method of inheritance with GDScript is very basic, where you can inherit from a base class and then you inherit all the methods and properties and stuff, but you can't do sophisticated things like override methods and whatnot. How do you go about learning new complex concepts? There's so much I want to implement in my games, but I feel limited by my knowledge. That IDK where to start? Yeah, it depends on... Yeah, that's a very good question. Because doing something like... I'm trying to think of something complex. So doing something like a Terraria-style world generation, like you could go and look up a tutorial on how to do that, and you could follow it beat for beat and probably end up with something. But I think what you're asking is like, how do you even get to the point where you could make something like that on your own based on your foundational knowledge? And I don't know if I have a good answer for that other than like just following that example of like Terraria world style generation. Study all the different aspects of the code and why things are being done in certain places, because you'll stumble across things like noise. Okay, do some research on how noise is used in video games, how it's used in shaders, how it's used in procedural generation and other things, right? Multi-threading or chunking would be another aspect of that style of world generation. So try to understand multi-threading. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to, I think it'll just come with experience as you get exposed to more and more concepts. I don't know if there's like a silver bullet way of like, here's a step-by-step how you get to that complex knowledge. It's just a matter of building up your foundations to a good enough point where once you do come across a complex thing, it's still going to be complex, but then you'll be able to break it down into small parts and say, okay, I understand why they're doing this here and why they're doing that there, and so on and so forth. What's your approach to implementing a new feature then? How do you interact with other systems? Do you use a service locator, single point of entry, or dependency injection? I don't do any of those things. I mean, are you using Godot, Druidimos? I mean, I'm just, how do I interact with other systems? So, I mean, there's some glue that has to hold things together. Like there are nodes, like common ancestor nodes that kind of orchestrate things. So like I have a game event system that can broadcast events to the entire system based on what happens in specific nodes. But mostly it's just keeping the scenes, you know, modular by themselves, like this zombie tycoon here, and just building out this entity using all these components and then tying it all together with a script. And then, of course, there are other gameplay systems that are responsible for spawning this zombie tycoon at the appropriate part, but those systems don't really care about what the zombie tycoon does, right? It just says, spawn the zombie tycoon, I wash my hands, whatever happens with the zombie tycoon, not my problem, right? Just like spawn it in the game, something else is gonna handle how it behaves, you know, what its health is, all that stuff. So yeah, I guess I don't really, I hope that's a good answer to your question, but I don't really understand how to answer your question thoroughly. You know, you just kind of have to view it as like a hierarchy, right? Like there are some gameplay systems that are high level that handle the high level things. And then as you go down the hierarchy, I would say that the zombie tycoon is sort of like at the lowest level of the hierarchy, which is like, it's a very specific implementation of a very specific entity that has no bearing on the overall gameplay systems. Like the gameplay systems don't care if the zombie tycoon exists or not. But the same cannot be said of like my game events, Singleton, which notifies of all kinds of different game events happening. If I remove that from the game, everything would break, because that's sort of like the common interface through which a lot of the gameplay systems kind of communicate. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that helps or not. Push until I get to a roadblock, determine what the roadblock is, and then focus on that roadblock. Yeah, that's a good strategy as well. Most of the new things I learned lately are from asking ChatGPT. Oh, that's a good option too. How do I design my modular tile set for purpose X? How to write a shader? It's not always right, but it helps me a ton. Yeah, I find that ChatGPT, even if it doesn't give you the right answer right away, it oftentimes can reveal to you an area of further investigation, which is good, which is really helpful. So basically you just use different event buses to communicate between different systems. Yeah, basically, I mean, there has to be some way that, like, there has to be some orchestration and there has to be some coordination, right? Like, not everything can exist in like an agnostic vacuum. There have to be some things that know a lot about the internals of how the game is working. The question is that properly isolated away from things like the zombie tycoon, right? Because I believe I've designed it so that I could create a new scene and I could plop the zombie tycoon into the scene with no other supporting game structures, and the zombie tycoon would function, basically. Because the zombie tycoon is a very, very specific thing that doesn't have any, again, bearing over the gameplay systems themselves. But things like how my bullets behave and how the statuses get transferred and like how I respond to events with the passive system that I'm building, that all involves something somewhere having more knowledge about the happenings and goings on of the game. So there has to be a level of orchestration. Not everything can just exist in like its own silo. It's just a matter of like I said, properly isolating the things that know a lot about the internals of the game from the things that don't really care about the internals and just kind of like operate by themselves. You know what I mean? Ideally, I want to eventually be able to do things on my own, like you said, but I don't want to get stuck in tutorial hell. Yeah, that's a good, I mean, the fact that you're aware that you could get stuck in tutorial hell is a good thing. I think you just have to be conscientious about putting in the effort to really understand why the tutorials are showing you the things the way that why they're doing things the way that they are. But a lot of it is too just like you just have to You just have to get the experience, and that really only comes with dedicated time and effort. Like, you know, I got to this point where I could build Gunforge. I've been doing game development and programming generally since I was like a young teenager. So I've got like, you know, if you wanted to count since I was 14, I've got 16 years of experience doing programming work. So it's like, the things that look easy to me are only easy because I've been doing it for a very long time. And I've been exposed to a lot of different scenarios, and I've just through experience learned what works and what doesn't, and what creates an unmaintainable mess and what creates something that's relatively easy to extend and maintain. And that's not something that I can, or that anyone really can just sit down and say, here's how to do it. I think most of that just comes from your own sort of learning and failures and successes and all that stuff. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, like, you have to be thinking on the time span of years when you're doing this kind of stuff. Like, I would say, like, when I started doing professional programming, so not just like as a hobby doing my own little side projects and video games, but when I actually got a salary to do programming as a junior developer, it took me a solid 3-4 years to get to the point where I was confident that the solutions that I was coming up with for various client needs and various business needs were actually acceptable and good. Where I stopped, like, it took me 3 to 4 years before I was at the point where I was like, yeah, I don't really need to like validate my approach with a senior dev. I'm pretty sure this is how I'm supposed to do it. Am I gonna win this? I keep dying to this guy. Ah! Part of what's making this boss fight hard is I don't have the typical upgrades that the player would have, because this boss is going to appear after 10 waves, so you're going to have 10 waves or 9 waves of upgrades. So, but I'm fighting him as if he appears on wave 1. So that's making it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be, but get out of here with your dollar signs. Ouch. It doesn't help that that poison gun is very inaccurate. Okay, this is a really fun boss fight. If I'm allowed to toot my own horn for a little bit here. Like, this is actually really engaging. I feel like I have to focus 100% on this. Yeah, I did it. Boom! Only took 1 damage too. Nice. Okay, I gotta set the lowrider spider's health back. What was it, 2,500? I think that's right. Yeah, 2,500. Yeah. Okay. I love that Godot's scenes are just text files. That's a really nice thing. Component for lowrider spider. Yeah, if you're watching tutorials and mindlessly copying what they do without understanding it, you may have a game at the end, but how did you get there? Yep, exactly. Could you briefly show your setup for that menu you bring down to spawn certain enemies' bosses? Yeah, so I think it's, I can quickly show that. So the thing that's critical to this system working is that I have in here in my scenes, for instance, I've got a single folder here, entity, that contains all my entities, right? And what I do is I have debug registry here, and I have like my base entity path, which is a path pointing to my entity folder. And then on startup, if I'm in a debug build, it will scan the directory for every file that is a scene file, and it basically creates an ID based on the file name. So in the case of zombie, the ID would be zombie with a lowercase z, and it adds that to a dictionary. So that's the critical part. So it's just adding it to a dictionary where the key is an ID and the value is a path to the entity. Now, I probably don't need this registry. I could probably just dynamically change it, but or dynamically load it. But anyway, so the point then is with my debug console, it's very simple. When I type, for instance, spawn, there's a little switch in here under the parse input. It says if the first word is spawn, it goes to the spawn function, passes in the rest of the arguments, and then it just basically decides, okay, here's the ID from the rest of those arguments. And then it just looks up that ID in the registry. And if it finds an entry with that ID, it just spawns it at the player position. So that's a very quick overview of how it's working. Basically, I have a map that's being generated that maps the ID to the scene path. And then within the debug console, it's very simple. Like if the first word is spawn, then the next argument is going to be an ID. So like try to instantiate the scene with that ID at the player position. That's basically it. And that can be extended for all kinds of things. But really that registry system is what makes it relatively easy to do that. I just purchased one of your courses on Udemy and have only basic programming experience. The best approach would be, after finishing the course, to just try to make something on my own. Yeah, I would say, well, which course did you get? Did you get the Vampire Survivors course? Because if you did that one, what I would encourage you to do is actually just stick with that project and add new attacks and upgrades yourself and new enemies and whatnot. Because the framework is already there, but you're still going out on a limb because you're doing something that's not explicitly shown by the tutorial or by the course. So try to come up with your own attack and your own ability and use what you learned in the course, and you can reference the code that you've already written and borrow and copy paste and stuff like that. But try to extend it yourself. That would be a good next step. That would be what I would recommend to you, rather than just restarting from scratch. Take what you've already built and extend it and get comfortable with doing that, and then see if you can start from scratch. Yeah, this again is something that's just going to come with experience, I think. Yeah, if you just started game dev, I think that all these questions you're having about how do I do this, how do I do that, that's good. That curiosity is good, and it may feel frustrating initially to not know the answers to those questions and to not know how to find the answers to those questions, but trust me when I say that if you stick with it and you keep working at it and you put in consistent effort, like these things will come to you eventually. Like they'll start to click, everything will start to make sense. You'll learn something new every day, and like eventually, you know, if you learn something new every day over years, that's going to add up to a mountain of knowledge. So just stick with it. I know it's frustrating at first, but yeah, it'll come. I haven't found any Udemy or YouTube information that actually shows good project organizational approach. Part of it is because what works for one person doesn't work for the next. Oh, I see. Well, I know of a course that shows you how to do composition very well. It's linked in the description below. Godot can save a binary version of every type of resource, but I wonder why it never saves a SCN file other than that source control of source. Oh, yeah, I don't know. What I think of Godot 4.4's new UID system, I don't really know. I don't know what the point of the UID system is. That doesn't mean it doesn't have a point. I'm not familiar with what problems it's solving. I'm going to assume that it's a good choice if the developers chose to implement such a wide-ranging change. But I don't know the ins and outs to have a real opinion on that. What do you consider an entity? An entity is anything that can be put into the level that is not part of the tile set, and that can be scripted to have some behavior. Usually it's like an actor, right? So an entity is like an enemy, the player. It could be something like a light source that has some kind of logic that flickers the light. Although I think I put those in environment instead. At the end of the day, a lot of it is arbitrary too. Like, you still have to think about the human side of things, right? Like, an entity for me is like an actor that can be scripted. It may bear some resemblances to like an environment, like a light source, but then I might call that environment. So, you know, some of the organization is arbitrary. Like, what makes sense to you as a developer in terms of like what to call this thing and where to put it? Oh yeah, the two. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, that's a good suggestion too. Yeah, I do call out that the Vampire Survivors course is for people who have a little bit of programming experience. That's not to discourage you. I think that you can certainly learn from that course. It's just I don't spend time in those courses explaining programming concepts, and so if you don't know programming fundamentals like if, blocks, and functions, and for loops, then you're probably going to be lost. I don't know if you're in that situation, but I appreciate you buying the course for sure. And, you know, some people have no problem jumping into the deep end like that, but I made those more for an audience of people who are like, they've got some knowledge of programming and they're ready to make a game. And that's kind of who the courses are geared toward. All right, so cool. All right, well, it's just about lunchtime for me here, so I'm going to end the stream there. But I want to thank you all for being here. It was a lot of fun. Again, if you'd like to support my work, please check out the links in the description below. I've got the Udemy courses that we've just been talking about, so those are a great way to financially support me, as well as learning how to build a game of your own in the Godot engine. Also, this game that I've been working on for this stream is called Gunforged. It has a Steam page and a demo available, so I would appreciate it if you could wishlist that, and if you are inclined, play the demo and leave me some feedback either in the Steam forums or as a comment to this video. I appreciate any and all feedback, and while I may not respond to every bit of feedback, please be aware that I'm reading all of it. I see all of your comments no matter where they're directed and where they're coming from, and I am making notes about all the problems that you guys are finding with the game, and I'm actively thinking about how to solve those problems. So it's very helpful. Keep the feedback coming, and yeah, thanks all for being here. Yeah, another great stream. Numbers are going up. Yeah, number go up, brr. It's like neuron activation, that meme. Anyway, yeah, you have a good day as well. Yeah, have a good day, everyone. Thank you all so much for your support, and thanks for being here. It's a lot of fun, and I'll see you in tomorrow morning's stream at the same time. All right.